So you've probably heard it said, if you've ever followed sports at all, the game is not played on paper, it's played on the field. And what this means is that two teams can be completely mismatched, right? They can have completely different records. One can be undefeated, the other could be 0-10. One team could have an absolute stud five-star quarterback, the other could be relying on their third-string QB. The smaller school could be seemingly out-coached, out-recruited, and outspent. On paper, it may seem like there's no point in even playing the game. But none of that matters when the game starts, because when the whistle blows, anyone can beat anyone. Inside those 4 quarters, inside those 60 minutes, what has previously been on paper goes out the window. And I think sometimes we look at our lives on paper. Our finances, our salaries, our debt, our decisions, our mistakes, our failures. And sometimes it's not super impressive. Sometimes it's downright depressing. And I've learned quite a bit over the last year or two. I've learned more about what's real and what's fake, what's more important and what's less important, what's a real threat and what's more or less a bluff. And there are words that I've started to notice in culture, in the business world, in the consumer world. Words like urgent and vital. So you'll read or hear things that say, "It is urgent that you return our call. It is urgent that you make a payment. Your urgent attention is requested." Now, when I read or hear something like this, I think, is it urgent for me or is it urgent for you? Do you, the business, have something I urgently need? Or do I, the consumer, have something you urgently want? Urgent to me is like, my family has no food and I need to buy food. I'm sorry if urgent to me is not paying a bill on time to keep the creditors happy. That's not urgent. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's not. Urgent, the word urgent, needs to signify more importance. It needs to carry more weight. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Everything can be urgent to someone because to everyone, their thing is the most important thing. And to some people, their thing is the only thing. And the word urgent has a root word. That word is urge. And urge has some interesting origins if you're into that sort of thing. So it turns out that the word urge originally comes from words that mean things like to bind, to weigh down on, to force onward, to push forward, to drive. Listen to that one more time. To urge is to bind, to weigh down on, to force onward, to push forward, to drive. And I'm no PhD here, but it almost sounds like to urge is to attempt to use someone as an animal, a beast of burden, for labor. Like, for instance, an ox, a mule, or a jackass. And in light of this, if someone is urging you, putting urgency on you, is it not like a bit in your mouth? Is it not like a saddle on your back? Maybe a carrot dangling in front of your face? But let me remind you, we are not beasts. We are sons. What about this one? It is vital. It is vital that we hear from you regarding this matter. It is vital that you return our call. It is vital that you make this decision right now, today. But I looked up the word vital. You know what it means? Of or manifesting life. Of or manifesting life. But life for whom? Life for whom? If I have $100 and my family needs food, I am going to buy food. Sorry, because food is vital. I'm not going to tell my family they can't eat because we owe whatever to whoever. So a lot of things are vital, but not everything is vital to you. Which leads me to my next question. What is vital to you? What manifests life to you? Christ himself said, "I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly." So what is life? What is life? Is it mere existence? Is it survival? Or could it be something more? And let's not forget that the person who said this, "I have come that they may have life more abundantly," comes from a realm in which pure gold is used as asphalt. Something to think about. What about this? Does this sound familiar? Your credit could be negatively affected. We may report this information to the credit bureaus. We may tattle. We may tell on you. And all of this would be bad news if we were people who needed to pay with credit. But who needs credit? Borrowers. And what are we? Lenders. Isn't that what the word says? The lender and not the borrower? Above only and not beneath? But we don't believe that. And why don't we believe it? Because 99% of all of our external messaging communicates to us that we are borrowers. We're certainly borrowers on paper. I'll give you that. But whose paper are we looking at? The Bible's made of paper. Same paper that your bills are printed on. So whose paper are we looking at? If we're choosing to look at our lives on paper, whose paper is defining our lives? And before we wrap up, I want to remind you of a passage of Scripture. This is from Matthew 11, verses 28 to 30. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So if you feel burdened, or you just have some nagging voice that is trying to make you feel burdened, a voice of urgency, trying to urge you and convince you that being burdened is somehow responsible, I want you to ask yourself, what is vital to me? Remember what we said vital means? Of or manifesting life. So what manifests life to you? What is your source of vitality? Who is your source of vitality? And I'll remind you again, the game is not played on paper. Your life is not being played out on paper. And you have a choice. You can choose to allow external things to define you, or you can engage with an internal voice who has promised to never leave or forsake you. And when that whistle blows to start the game, when that alarm clock goes off tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes for the first time, you can begin rewriting your season. If you're 0-10, or you feel like you're 0-10, you can go from 0-10 to 1-10. And that one W can make all the difference. That one W can start to turn the program around. Remember David and Goliath. Goliath may have had many victories. He may have slain thousands of men. But David, on that particular day, got the W. And that W got recorded. And how was it recorded? On paper. I'm Ryan Coleman, the real Ryan Coleman on Instagram, not Ryan Coleman on X. I'll remind you again of my new ebook, Problems to Proverbs, Ancient Wisdom for the Modern World, Volume 2. If this podcast helps you reframe some mindsets, the book does the same. It's over 200 carefully selected sayings, insights, revelations, perspectives. I think it will challenge you in the best possible way, or at least remind you that you're not alone, which I think is super valuable. I'll link that in the show notes so that you can start reading immediately after you finish this episode. And as always, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.